So first I'd like to thank you all for coming out today at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday on the first week of Thanksgiving break. But now let's get straight into facts. All right, fact number one, the world's supply of oil is decreasing. Now, this is due to a decrease in the rate of discovery of new oil fields, as well as a depletion of current oil reserves. Fact number two, the world population is growing up to about 9 billion by 2050. This will mainly take place in developing countries, such as India and China, whose increased standards of living will demand even more energy. Now, I'm not saying that oil is going to run out. I mean, we'll always find some new way of extracting it, whether it be from tar sands or whether it be from deeper in the Earth's crust, but the price will necessarily increase. And you may not know this, but petroleum derivatives are used in a lot more than just fuel. I mean, they're used in asphalts, they're used in paints, plastics, even some medicines contain petroleum derivatives. So it's even more essential that we conserve the supply that we currently have. And as you can see, the majority of it is used in transportation, though. So it makes sense that our first step to conserving the oil we have would be to eliminate that 2/3 used for transportation. Now, there have been some proposals to do this. They include natural gas and hydrogen. And personally, I don't like natural gas very much as a long-term solution because, I mean, even though it's supposed to last us for 100 years, well, that's just putting off the problem. We're just leaving it for the next generation, and that isn't a sustainable way to look at things. And, well, besides that, natural gas is supposed to be the cleanest of the fossil fuels. Isn't that an endorsement? In 2004, natural gas released 5.3 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And besides that, the actual process of extracting natural gas from the Earth can leak methane into the atmosphere, which is 4 times as potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So, you know, it's finite and it's relatively dirty. Unlike hydrogen, well, I guess hydrogen is finite. I mean, only 75% of the universe is hydrogen. But I don't think we'll be running out of it anytime soon. And besides that, when you actually burn hydrogen, the only byproduct is just pure water, H2O. You know, a lot better than carbon dioxide or methane. And also, hydrogen would serve as an ideal method of storing energy in a green economy where the majority of the electricity is generated by, for example, solar or wind or tidal that aren't always producing energy constantly, right? You know, the sun isn't always up, the wind isn't always blowing, the tides are moving in and out. So hydrogen would serve an ideal method of storing the energy produced by these technologies, and then you could burn the hydrogen at a later date to fill the demand during times of no supply. Now, okay, well, why aren't we using it now then? Well, there are some problems. Well, hydrogen's a gas, right? It's very low density. So that makes it difficult to store and transport. So the current solution to this problem right now is to pressurize the hydrogen. But besides taking energy, pressurization also increases risks such as combustion or, in some rare cases, even explosion. Oh, the humanity, right? So yeah, how do we make sure that this doesn't happen on a regular basis? Well, there's a technology, it's called polymethyl methacrylate magnesium mixture. And the main benefit of it is that it actually allows the hydrogen to be stored at lower densities. The hydrogen gas will bond to the magnesium in the material and it'll be stored at lower densities. This, of course, reduces the need for pressurization and the risks associated with it. And besides that, the polymethyl methacrylate is selectively permeable which means that it'll actually only allow the hydrogen to enter. The oxygen and water will not be allowed to enter the material, which of course further reduces the risk of combustion and therefore explosion. But there's also another main problem, and it's that we don't really have the infrastructure for hydrogen right now, right? You can't go to your gas station and get hydrogen pumped in, then it would be a hydrogen station, right? Even if you could get it pumped into your car still wouldn't work because it's not running on a hydrogen fuel cell. So as for the solution to this problem, well, it won't happen overnight. It can't. Right? You won't wake up one day and all the cars will be running on hydrogen fuel cells and all the gas tanks will be refitted with hydrogen pumps and everything will be fantastic and everything will be magical. That won't happen. It'll have to be a more gradual process. There might be one company that produces a hydrogen car, and there might be a few gas stations in some major cities that start to include hydrogen pumps and et cetera, and then it grows. Kind of like what's happening with electrical cars now with their lithium-ion batteries, except unlike lithium-ion batteries, hydrogen fuel cells won't contain rare and possibly toxic and easily degradable materials. And to actually speed along this process, there might be a government subsidy. And where would the money come from? Well, to be frank, it's not really that expensive. Science as a whole isn't that expensive at all. The entire running budget of NASA over the whole 50 years it's been in operation, sending rockets into space, sending people to the moon, is less than the 2008 bank bailout. Right? So it's not that expensive at all. And there are plenty of low-hanging fruit in our budget that we could, shift to subsidizing an idea like this. In 2011, the government spent $7.8 billion subsidizing ethanol, which, is a mature, overproducing industry that makes a fuel that produces about as much carbon emissions as petroleum. So, there are plenty of places where this money can come from. And, well, there might be one final thing on your mind, and that would be safety. How do you make sure that your car doesn't turn into a Hindenburg, right? Well, to be frank, if you're in an accident bad enough that your hydrogen fuel cell is ruptured and that there's going to be a fiery explosion, then your gas tank is also going to probably rupture and there will be a fiery explosion. So let's compare the two. This is a hydrogen fire. This is a gasoline fire. Now, you might be wondering, well, why is this? Well, hydrogen, it is one of the lightest, it is the lightest element, and it will diffuse rapidly through the air. So what will happen is your hydrogen fuel cell will be burst, and then all the hydrogen will float upwards through the air, catching fire above your car, whereas petroleum is a liquid, so it will just sit in your engine and burn your car. So, I'd choose the hydrogen one, but, it's up to you. And on a more serious note, I'd just like to reiterate the gravity of the problem we're facing. We're talking about our way of life here. Without a cheap source of energy, who here has an iPhone? Okay, without a cheap source of energy, that wouldn't be near as cheap as it is today. All that technology over there, this PowerPoint probably would be 10 times as expensive to actually run as it is now. So cheap sources of energy are essential for our way of life in the developed world. And, without one, it would necessarily regress. And now let's think, what if we have a cheap source of energy that could easily proliferate throughout the world? Well, and it can, right? Water is, which contains hydrogen, makes up 2/3 of the Earth's surface. If we do have a cheap source of energy, then, for example, desalination, the main problem to that right now is that it's very energy inefficient, so it costs a lot of money. But if we have a cheap source of energy easily available in developing countries that don't have ready access to clean water, well, that problem is pretty much solved, right? And then, that would, whole problems of the world right now of supply would be, easily eliminated. So there's a bright future ahead of us if we're able to create some type of, easily proliferatable, cost-effective technology, like, for example, the hydrogen with the polymethyl methacrylate. And I guess, let me be frank, I'm 14. I don't know what our scientists right now are working on that might completely revolutionize the entire energy picture. But I do know that it's absolutely essential that that technology be supported and implemented. Now, all right, what can you do? Well, I know some of you in this room can probably do a few things. So let me just put out a 3-step plan. All right, it's fairly simple. If you can do something to support this, do it. If you can't do it easily, support someone who can. And most of all, educate yourself about the issues involved. Educate yourself about energy and the various technologies that we might use, because by having an educated population that can choose which technology they want and which technology would best carry us into the future, we will be able, I do believe, to win this race against time that we so dearly need to win, that our entire civilization depends upon. Thank you.